Hey YouTubers, today we're working on a 1986 944 non-turbo. I don't know if that makes a difference or not with the brakes, but just full disclosure. Anyway, the brake master cylinder had no fluid in it, and so before I decided to just put fluid in it and try to pump it up, I knew there was a reason why there was no fluid. It leaked out. And so this is the disassembly process, and this is going to be a two-part video. So in the next part, we're going to try to source some parts and maybe rebuild it or figure something else out. So anyway, as usual, if you like the videos I make, click like so I know to make more of the same. And if you want to see more when I make them, hit subscribe. Let's get into it. So here's master cylinder, and you can see on the back of the master cylinder, this big black round thing is the brake booster, and you will notice that the back of the brake booster is moist and all the paint is gone. The reason all the paint is gone is because brake fluid takes paint off. It's very efficient at removing paint. If you don't want your car to look good, get some brake fluid on the outside of it. Within a week, you'll know what you did wrong. Anyway, short version of the story is I'm going to remove this brake master cylinder, see if I can source a rebuild kit for it, and rebuild it. If I can't source a rebuild kit for it, well then we're gonna have to explore other options. But I went online, and this particular master cylinder for this particular car is expensive. It is astronomically expensive. So what we're gonna do is, I already disconnected these wires and they actually just snapped off as soon as I tried to pull them because it was all rusty and crusty. The reservoir, I think, actually just pries off. Sometimes there would be like a little drift pin between the reservoir and the master cylinder holding it in place. I don't see one, so I'm going to take this pry tool and just try to pry it up, see if it comes apart. If not, then I will see if I can't remove the whole master cylinder as one unit without removing this. And then once I get it on a bench and I can inspect it further, then we'll see. But ooh, juicy. So that actually came right off of there with very little effort on my part. And see this hose going here, this goes down to the clutch master cylinder, which is buried down in there, underneath and behind the brake booster. That might actually be leaking also, but we'll get to that. So for right now, I'm gonna take off this hose clamp, remove this hose so I can get this completely out of the way, and then I'm gonna remove this brake master cylinder, which that's not supposed to be in there. That's full of things that's not supposed to be in there. So I'm gonna take it apart. We're gonna see if I can get these brake lines off without stripping them, because they don't look too rusty, but they look kind of rusty. So we're gonna hope for the best. And then it's just two bolts holding it onto the brake booster. There's one on this side and one on this side. So I'm gonna do all of that and inspect it, kind of assess the situation. Getting these off, I couldn't find my box wrenches. Like, half of them are missing. I never use these open-end wrenches, but I found this 7/16, which is the perfect size for this. I don't know what that is in metric. I think that's probably an 11. I got two of these lines off, this one and this one. This one, of course, is being a booger. I started taking it off, and then what it wants to do is it wants to twist the whole line. And so I just been rocking it back and forth and spraying PB blaster in there, and I was able to work the fitting loose from the line before I ended up twisting it around and completely ruining. You can see the outer coating kind of peeling away because it twisted a little bit, but once I rocked it a little bit and moved it back and forth, I was able to work that fitting loose from the line, so it's not twisting the line around as I try to undo it. But it's coming off. They were tight, but they weren't super tight to where I stripped a nut or anything like that. Like I had my vice grips on deck ready to go, because that's what I was expecting. I was expecting to have to grab them really good with a pair of vice grips and I guess basically muscle them off. But nope, wrench wrench works just fine. Like I said, they're tight on there, but it's not stripping those fittings or anything like that. It's just this one was kind of tight on that on the line. So what I'm gonna do is, once I get this off, I'm gonna push this fitting back from the flare at the end of the line and sand it a little bit smooth with sandpaper. Get some of this coating off of here, because it has a coating on the outside of it. You can see it's kind of flaking away like paint. All of them have that. You can see that's what it is here. Someone's missing there. But anyway, once I get this line off, then it's just two 13mm bolts, and I took this wrench and I broke them loose, and they just came loose. I mean, like this one, see? So I might just put a socket on there and take those off. So let me finish taking this off. That was pretty painless. I gotta find my snap ring removal tool, because this is held in by a snap ring. It's crusty and dirty, and there's brake fluid all in there. There's actually brake fluid all down inside where the brake booster is. I wouldn't be surprised if this brake booster has failed. If brake fluid gets in there after a while, they tend to not work anymore. And I'm gonna try to find a rebuild kit for that. Now, my first instinct was I was going to try to put some brake fluid in here and pump it and see if I could get brakes, see if the system would work. But if you look down in here, let me see if you can. So you see that? All that crusty stuff, it looks like foam kind of. And in here, see that? This hole is open. This hole has the same crusty stuff. I'm guessing that somebody at some time put something in here that was not .4 brake fluid, and it mixed with the brake fluid and coagulated and turned it into that foam crusty whatever that is. So I'm glad I didn't put brake fluid in there, because that would have just pushed that into the brake system and caused more problems than I would want to deal with. So we're gonna, I guess, get my snap ring pliers, take this apart, see if I can't find a rebuild kit. If I can get a rebuild kit, great. If I can't get a rebuild kit, well then we're gonna have to figure out and devise a plan B. But for now, it's out. No fuss, no muss. I got it apart. So I found my snap ring pliers. They weren't hard to find. And there was a snap ring on the end of this, on the end in here. And then once I removed that snap ring, there was this piece. I'm gonna show you guys how this went together. So there was this below the snap ring. There was this, which has a groove, and that faces down into the master cylinder. And then there's this plastic piece with these ridges. Those ridges are really easy to break. Be careful with them. They're not critical, but I'd rather not break them. I broke one of 6. I broke one of 6. I think it'll work fine still. And then there was this rubber piece, and then this metal piece, and then this is the rubber plunger that forces brake fluid into the master cylinder and creates pressure. So there's this ring pushing onto the plunger, and then there's this rubber, this spring. This plunger pushes fluid out here and here for the front brakes, and then behind that is this plunger right here, and it faces like this inside the master cylinder. So the spring goes in first, and then the plunger is behind it. But to get this piece out, what you have to do is this 10mm bolt on the side here. You don't have to take it out completely, but you loosen it up, and once you start loosening it, you'll hear this kind of just pop out a little bit. And then I just grabbed it, and I had a piece of wood here, and I just tapped it really hard on that piece of wood because I didn't want to damage this flange, and this came right out. You see how gunky and gummy and nasty that is? Well, inside of the master cylinder, it's even worse. So I don't know if this is salvageable. Clean it up really good, make sure there's no pitting in the bore, but my guess is that water and moisture got in here, and that's what caused this, because brake fluid does absorb water and it'll turn it into mud. And then of course these rubber grommets that hold the reservoir onto the master cylinder, they're pretty much soft. They're like paste. They look like they're holding themselves together, but I could take it and roll it up into a little ball of rubber. It's lost all its structural integrity, so I'm gonna need those also. So if you watch this video and you happen to know of a company that makes a rebuild kit for a 944 master cylinder 86, that non-turbo, non-ABS, Let me know in the comments section. If not, well, the search is on. I'll let you guys know what I come up with.